evening. This is Gary. Firstly, I want to take a moment and express my appreciation to all of you for taking time today joining us. I know the circumstances is a little unusual, but technologies led us to hold this sort of meetings. We have a large group gathered, and because the group is large, I might be unable to open up everybody's microphone. However, we do want this to be a session where you guys can freely ask questions. We want to encourage you to type your questions in the chat window. We've got our team, both from engineering and the support, as well as sales members are standing by answering questions come across the chat window. So make sure you use that chat window to ask questions. We are roughly doing 30 minutes to maybe 40 minutes presentation, including a short demo. We will leave the remaining time for answering some of the questions you might come up at the end. And lastly, by all means, give us feedback to gary@lednets.com and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube to check the webinar recordings and the future session agenda. Let us know what you want to hear and let us know what you want to see in other courses so that we can continue to improve and make this better. All right, I appreciate everyone's participation, and let's get started. What we're going to be talking about today is Z-series processor overview, and then explain some of the key points or things that users are mostly concerned. But we will not go into too deep on this particular topic. After that, we will have a short demonstration of how to set up processor in ICS Software. At the end of the session, I will open up somebody's microphone for those who wants to ask questions, and I will try to get them answered in real time. So basically, this series family has 3 members. Z4 is the entry-level processor, but still got many nice features. Z6 is the mainstream processor, which is also one of the best sell models. It's been widely used in the field. Z6 Pro is the advanced processor. It's very beautiful and powerful. It's a very good choice for users that has high demand on performance and functionality. All 3 processors are equipped with a LCD screen on the front and buttons on their front where users can set up their LED wall without hooking up an external computer or using the software. Z4's case is a standard 1U, while Z6 and the Z6 Pro case are standard 2U. Then let's take a look of the Z4 first. Hello, there's no sound? Okay. Okay, that's good. So let's go on. Alright, let's continue with the Z4 processor. Now we're seeing the Z4's back panel from the left to the right. There is a 3-pin AC power plug. Its working voltage range from 100 to 240. It's got a management Ethernet and 2 USB ports for parameter configuration. USB Type B is the input, and Type A is a loop-out port for daisy chaining Z4 processors in the case where we need multiple processors to drive a large LED wall. The 4 round ports in the center are EtherCom outputs, which goes directly to LED panels with Cat5 or Cat6. On the right, we've got two 3G SDI and one DP 1.2 input ports, as well as HDMI 1.4 and DVI 1.4 plus their loop-out ports, respectively. I need to point out that HDMI loop-out does not comply to HDCP 1.4, so it cannot pass through encrypt content. Next, we are going to look into the Z6 processor's hardware specs. Z6 is a 4K resolution capable processor. It has been added more features versus Z4. Not only larger capacity it has, also HDR supported and more inputs. The red section on the right side is the video input slot area where we can plug in replaceable input cards. It's got a HDMI 2.0 and quad DVI card. On the HDMI card, there are also a HDMI loop out with HDCP 2.2 and DP 1.2 input. Genlock and Genlock in and Genlock loop out are available on the Z6. The two BNC connectors next to Genlock are 3G SDI inputs. It has three types of control interface: management Ethernet, serial port, and USB port. The number of output ports on the Z6 is 4 times than the Z4. It has 16 EtherCom output ports that makes Z6 capable of driving a 4K screen. Z6 is also able to do 3D, but it's an optional function. The regular Z6 is not including 3D components. The 3D sync port here will be sealed on the mainboard. By the way, the mainboard is located in the area where got a control interface and Genlock. The mainboard is replaceable too. This is the Z6 Pro back panel. The right side are 4 replaceable video input cards, 2 of HDMI cards on the top, 1 quad SDI card, and 1 quad DVI card. Each card is capable of receiving 4K signal. Users can custom the input card combination, meaning that you can choose 2 DVI cards or 4 DVI cards or 4 SDI cards before you buy a Z6 Pro, or any other combination according to your project needs. The software will change its interface depending on the type of input card gets detected by ICS. The left side is located output ports and control ports. You might have noticed that Z6 Pro has 4 optical fiber output ports instead of EtherCom. 2 of them are primary ports and the other 2 are designated redundancy port. Each fiber connector on Z6 Pro uses 10G gigabit backbone to a fiber distribution unit H10FN to reduce the number of required home run cables. Keep the cabling as simple and affordable as possible. Each trunk fiber connector supports 10 1 gigabit Ethernet connectors. It only needs 2 cables to drive a 4K LED wall. And you can add 2 more cables to do redundancy. So run a 4K primary and 4K backup on a single processor. Below the optical COM connectors are its control ports, including management Ethernet port, serial port, USB ports, and 2 BNC connectors are Genlock in and loop out for synchronization. This slide shows about 3 types of input cards that are available for Z6 Pro and Z6. So If they are available, if there is a video input upgrade available for processor in the future, you just need to buy the card itself instead of buying the whole processor. The H10FM fiber distribution unit is the only fiber breakout model that is compatible with Z6 Pro processor. There are two versions out there. H10FN-1 is the rack version, can be installed to a standard 1U rack. And H10FN-2 is the truss mounted version, especially designed for a rental purpose. It can be mounted to the truss behind LED screen, where it usually has limited space. Besides the exterior, they are functionally the same. Both got a power con in and power con out, reliable, and no extra power plug required in scenario where multiple H10FN used. H10FN is compatible with 10 gigabit single mode cable with up to 2 kilometers in length. I gathered and summarized some of the most asked questions or most concerned points from users during my daily work. So in the next few slides, we will be looking into it. Pixel capacity is absolutely the first one that pops up in my mind. By looking at the chart, we know the Z4 can do 1920 by 1200 resolution, which is around 2.3 million pixels. Z6 can do 3840 by 2160 UHD resolution, roughly 8.3 million pixels. And Z6 Pro can handle real 4K, 4096 by 2160, which is equal to almost 8.8 million pixels. Usually before we design a LED wall project, not only need to consider the total pixel capacity of the processor that you are planning to use, also need to think about the pixel capacity per each output port and pixel limitation in the width and the height. I mean the width of the screen and the height of the screen. To be better explaining this, let me give you an example. Let's go to the next slide. In this example, we've got a 40 by 40 panels wall. Each LED panel resolution is 128 by 128. We're using 4 ports on the Z4. Each string from single output port has 20 LED panels. The question is, can a single Z4 processor drive this wall? Let's check 3 primarily limitations of the Z4. The first, pixel loaded on each port is about 330,000 pixels, so we are okay with this one. And the next one, pixels loaded of the whole processor is about 1.3 million pixels. It's also under the Z4's limitation. And the third one, pixels in the height of the wall is 256. Okay, no problem. The last one, pixels in the wide is 5120. Obviously, it's over the Z4's width pixel limitation 4096. If you look at the small table here in this Z4's column, is total pixel limitation 2.3 million and pixel per output port 655,000 pixel, and limitation in the wide or in the high, it's 4096. So in this case, we need to use either at least 2 of Z6 or Z4s or larger capacity processor to drive this wall. I hope this example explains clear of the processor capacity limitation, and it will help you guys to decide the right processor to use when you design your project. The pixel capacity I was talking about is based on 60 Hz frame rate and 8-bit color depth. There are some exceptions. The Z6 and Z6 Pro accepts 10-bit color and the various of color formats. For example, the Z6 only do 2880 by 2160 resolution at 60 Hz at 10-bit, and the Z6 Pro capacity will be UHD, which is 3840 by 2160 at 60 Hz at 10-bit at color format 422 or 420. Because higher frame rate or higher color depth requires more bandwidth. We will do another in-depth webinar regarding the pixel capacity in the future, so we will not discuss too deep in this course. Please follow us on social medias or email me. We will keep you informed with our future courses. One of the another often asked question is how many Z processors can be daisy-chained via USB, because at the moment the largest capacity processor available is 4K, but more and more customers are requesting processors that larger than 4K capacity. The current solution is to daisy-chain multiple processors to drive a super large LED wall. The maximum number of daisy-chaining Z-series processor is 64. I personally think 64 units capacity would be satisfied for most of projects. If there are multiple processors daisy-chained, then the next concern is going to be how we keep multiple processors synchronized and how to avoid tearing effects caused by async source or middlewares between the source and LED wall. Well, the Z6 and Z6 Pro has Genlock in and loop out. Here listed supported Genlock standard. Please be noticed that the maximum processor can be daisy-chained via Genlock is 3. If in the case where you need to Genlock processors more than 3, then you will probably need to use some sort of Genlock splitter. Okay then, in this slide, we will look into the type of management interface that are available on Z-series processors. The Z4 has only RJ45 and a USB connector for control, and the Z6 and Z6 Pro has added IS-232 serial port compared to Z4. The difference between them is the type of serial connector. Z6 is using RJ11 connector, Z6 Pro is using DB9 connector. ColorLight opened the control protocol for mentioned 3 type of control interfaces to let our processor can communicate and be controlled via third-party interfaces such as Crystron. Okay, let's move on to our next slide. In this slide, we are showing a table of 3G SDI input formats that supported by the Z-series processor. As we can see, the Z6 and the Z6 Pro supported SDI format are the same, and Z4 does not support interlaced SDI and level B. Z-series processor has also built-in scaler. There is not much we can discuss about regarding the scaling. I did a demo last week where showed how easy we can upscale and downscale the content in ICS Software. For those of you that have not seen my previous session, please follow Color Light Technology on YouTube. We will upload the recordings to YouTube after every session. But I do want to point out one thing that I think you guys should be aware is that the DVIs on the Z6 cannot be individually scaled, meaning that 4 DVIs window on LED wall will be always sticking together. They are acting like one. If you scale one of them, the other 3 will be scaled too. Picture-in-picture is one of the important features that often used in many applications. Z4 and the Z6 supports 3 pips. Pips also refer as to windows or layers. And the Z6 Pro supports maximum 16 pips, depending on the type of input cards plugged. Each window or each pip can be freely resized and placed onto LED wall. Please refer to my previous webinar on YouTube as well. Next topic gonna be latency. Latency is crucial on certain projects like broadcast, live event. This series supports low latency feature. From this table, you might be aware that only the HDMI input has low latency, and there are few factors determining whether the processor can achieve low latency or not. The minimum latency can be achieved is 0 frame if no scaling, no cropping, no picture shifting, and the pixel width on each output port is below the threshold. Otherwise, the latency will be either 1 frame or 3 frames. I will not go too deep about latency in this course, as I'm planning to cover this topic in depth in other sessions soon. And 3D, as I mentioned earlier, 3D is an option to Z6 and Z6 Pro processors. Color Light is the first company that have 3D solution in LED industry. Our earliest 3D processor called IQ7E3D. Maybe some of you guys have been using that already. Anyways, 3D LED screen has following requirements. First, you need a 3D version Z6 or Z6 Pro, which comes with 3D AMID and 2 pairs of 3D glasses. Secondly, recommended refresh rate for your LED wall is 3840 Hz or above. If the refresh rate is lower than 3840 Hz, you might see flickering through your 3D glasses. And other key points I want to mention about is a 3D AMID can control at least 2000 glasses. Is being proved reliable in real project. The 3D AMID coverage range up to 90 meters. Most important is the 3D processor capacity will be reduced 50%, as is running 120 Hz at the 3D mode. So be careful of these points when you design a 3D project. Here is the comparison table between each model in this series for you guys to review. One more feature to mention is HDR. HDR is not new to LED screen industry anymore. Z6 and Z6 Pro both supports HDR. The difference is that Z6 supports HDR10 standard and the Z6 Pro supports HDR10 and HLG. HRG is the standard most often used in broadcast field. Okay, then next we are going to get into a very short live demo in ICS. Just want to point out where we can set up the processor's parameters and or use processor's features in ICS software. Hold on a second, please. Here we go. This is ICS Software version 4.2, the latest one. It's not available on our website yet, but I think it's gonna be released maybe next week. There are a few tabs on the top. The second tab, video source settings, is what we are going to look at tonight or today morning. In this page, we can see the input video format information over here. I don't know if you guys can see that. And cropping, we can do cropping here. We can set up edit by clicking these three dots. And we can see if there is a gen lock signal. And also we can choose to lock to which input. And we can set up picture in pictures in here. And if we click in picture adjustment, we're going to be able to set up the global hue, saturation, and compensation, contrast. In these boxes is where we can do upscale and downscale. You can either type in the numbers or the starting pixels position, which refers to X and Y coordinates here to do scaling, or you can put your mouse on the edge of this canvas, hold the mouse and drag the mouse to resize and place your pictures or your windows or your peeps on the LED wall. And here we have save presets and recall presets. The Z6 and the Z6 Pro both support 16 presets. We can save the presets and rename the presets and recall the presets by clicking this button. Or we can recall the presets from the front panel of the processor. And on the left top, there is a small tab, a sender tab, Z6. If we right click on this tab, there are many parameters we can set by right clicking on this tab. We can rename the processor, or we can enable low latency on the processor, and we can do 3D settings. It's very simple. Just check enable 3D and just use the default setting usually, then click OK. And ARNet settings, IP settings, we can choose either DHCP or static IP address. We think delay settings and turbo mode, just ignore this one. The Z6 and actually all Z series does not support turbo mode. And HDR, screen color and brightness. This is to set up the color space settings here. Of course, we can restore the factory settings by clicking this All right, that's almost I want to almost everything I want to point out on the ICS software. We have done another session dedicated to ICS software last week. So please feel free to check that on YouTube. Just search color light technology on YouTube. You will see that. And let's get back to the PowerPoint. All right. I think this is gonna be all for today. And send your questions to the chat window or raise your hand in the software, so we'll be able to open up your microphone. Is there any questions? No questions? Okay. Okay, I want to thank you all for joining us today. And our next call is going to be X series processors, and it will take place on April 28th. Make sure to send us feedback to my email, gary@lednets.com. And I'm looking forward to see you guys in our next course. Have a great day. Bye-bye.